Captain Day hung in the air, trapped in a field of blue energy that burned his skin. His arms were pulled wide, and blood dripped from a cut above his eye. He could barely keep his head up, but he forced himself to look forward. He had to stay strong. He had to show no fear. Across the room, 2 alien soldiers held a small boy at the edge of an open airlock. The boy's name was Jin, and he was only 8 years old. His parents had died 3 months ago from a fever that swept through the colony ship. Since then, the crew had taken care of him. Day had promised to keep him safe. Now he was failing that promise. "Lower the animal," Commander Vexter said. His voice was cold and sharp. "Or the child falls." Vexter stood tall, nearly 7 feet high. His skin was covered in dark green scales that gleamed under the ship's lights. His eyes were yellow with thin black slits for pupils. When he spoke, his mouth showed rows of sharp teeth. Behind him, a dozen more aliens stood guard, their weapons pointed at Day. The aliens called themselves the Corvathi. They had appeared 2 days ago, their massive warships surrounding the human colony ship like wolves around a deer. The New Dawn never had a chance. The Corvathi weapons tore through the shields in seconds. Their soldiers poured into the ship through forced airlocks and cut passages. Day had tried to fight back. His security team had weapons, but they were no match for the Corvathi. The aliens were faster, stronger, and their armor seemed to absorb the human bullets like rain. Within an hour, every human on the ship was captured. Within 2 hours, they were all locked in the cargo hold like livestock, except for Day. The Corvathi dragged him to their command ship for questioning. "I will ask one more time," Vexter said, stepping closer. "Where is your home world? Where is this Earth?" Day spat blood onto the floor. His throat was dry, and his voice came out rough. "I told you. I won't tell you." Vexter's head tilted to one side, like a bird studying a bug. "You are willing to let this small one die? Your own offspring?" "He's not my son," Day said. "But he's under my protection." "Then protect him," Vexter said. "Give me the coordinates." Day looked at Jin. The boy was crying, but he wasn't making any sound. His small hands gripped the arms of the soldier holding him. His feet dangled over the airlock's edge. Below was nothing but the black void of space. "Jin," Day called out. His voice was stronger now. "Listen to me. Be brave. Can you do that?" The boy nodded, tears streaming down his face. "That's good," Day said. "You're doing great. Just hold on." Vexter made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Touching. Your species has emotions. You care for your young, even those not related by blood. This is interesting, but not useful to me." He raised one clawed hand. The soldiers holding Jin moved him further over the edge. "Wait!" A voice shouted. Everyone turned. Dr. Hannah Bay was being dragged into the room by 2 more Corvathi soldiers. She struggled against their grip, but they held her easily. Hannah was the ship's scientist and doctor. She was small, barely 5 feet tall, with short black hair and glasses that were now cracked from rough handling. "Wait, please," Hannah said again. She was breathing hard. "You don't understand. If you hurt that child, you'll never get what you want." Vexter studied her with those yellow eyes. "Explain." "Humans are... We're pack animals," Hannah said, speaking quickly. "We protect our young together. Every adult on that ship will die before giving you information if you hurt a child. It's instinct. It's in our nature." "Then your nature is foolish," Vexter said. "One life for the survival of your species? A simple trade." "Not to us," Hannah said. "To us, that's everything?" Vexter was quiet for a moment. Then he lowered his hand. "Bring the female to a holding cell, and the small one as well. But do not harm them, yet." The soldiers pulled Jin back from the airlock. The boy collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. They picked him up and carried him out. Hannah was dragged after them, but she looked back at Day and gave him a small nod. Vexter turned back to Day. Your doctor has bought you time. The time is limited. I will learn about your species. I will understand what makes you function. And then I will take what I need from you, one way or another. He gestured to his guards. Take him back to his cell. Let him think about his choices. The energy field released Day, and he fell hard to the floor. Strong hands grabbed him and hauled him up. They dragged him through long corridors of the alien ship. Everything was designed for creatures larger than humans. The ceilings were high, the doorways wide. The walls glowed with a soft green light that made Day feel sick. They threw him into a small room with clear walls. On the other side of those walls, he could see other humans in similar cells. The entire crew of the New Dawn was here, trapped like animals in a zoo. Day crawled to the wall and pressed his hand against it. In the next cell, he could see Yuna Choi, the ship's engineer. She was young, maybe 25, with dirt on her face and torn clothes. She saw him and pressed her hand against the wall too. Across the corridor, he saw more crew members. Some were injured. Some were crying. But they were all alive. That was something. A few cells down, he spotted Hana. She was sitting on the floor with Jin curled up next to her. The boy had his head in her lap, and she was stroking his hair, whispering something Day couldn't hear. Probably telling him a story to calm him down. Day sat down heavily, his back against the wall. His whole body hurt. The energy field had burned him, and the Korvathi hadn't been gentle during the interrogation. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the weight in his chest. He had failed. He was supposed to lead these people to a new world, to a new life. Instead, he had led them into a trap. They were prisoners of a species that saw them as nothing more than clever animals. The Korvathi had technology far beyond human capabilities. Their ships could cross distances in days that would take human vessels months. Their weapons could destroy planets. They had conquered dozens of other alien species, turning them into slaves or wiping them out completely. What chance did humanity have against that? But even as he thought it, Day felt something hard and stubborn settle in his gut. It was the same feeling that had gotten him through military training. The same feeling that had kept him alive during the colony ship's long journey. The same feeling that had made him stand up to Vexter, even when it would have been easier to give in. Humans didn't give up. They couldn't afford to. Day looked around at his crew through the transparent walls. They were scared. They were hurt. But they were watching him, waiting to see what he would do. He stood up slowly, ignoring the pain. He straightened his torn uniform and met their eyes, one by one. Then he smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had just decided to fight, no matter the odds. Around him, his crew saw that smile and understood. One by one, they stood up too. 3 days passed in the cells. The Korvathi brought food twice a day, strange blocks that tasted like metal and dirt. The water was clean but warm. The lights never went out completely, just dimmed to a dull glow that made it hard to sleep. Vexter came every day to study them. He would walk slowly past the cells, watching the humans like they were insects under glass. Sometimes he brought other Korvathi with him, pointing at different humans and speaking in their clicking, hissing language. On the 4th day, they started taking people out for testing. Yuna was first. The guards came, opened her cell, and dragged her out despite her struggles. She was gone for 3 hours. When they brought her back, she had burn marks on her arms and strange patches stuck to her forehead. She collapsed in her cell and didn't move for a long time. Then they took an older man named Tay. He was a botanist, gentle and kind. They returned him after 2 hours. He was shaking and wouldn't talk about what happened. They took others. Each time, the person came back changed, scared, hurt, alive. Through it all, Hana watched and learned. She couldn't help the people they took, but she could pay attention. She watched the guards and noticed they followed patterns. The same guards came at the same times. They always checked the cells from left to right. They always stood in the same positions. She also listened. The Kovathi spoke their own language constantly, and Hana had trained as a linguist before becoming a doctor. She started picking up words. The clicking sounds meant commands. The hisses were questions. The low rumbles were showing displeasure. Slowly, she started to understand pieces of their conversations. One day, she heard two guards talking outside her cell. They were discussing the humans and the tests. One guard said something that made Hana's blood run cold. The Kovathi scientists had discovered that humans had unusual pain tolerance and recovery abilities. They healed faster than most species the Kovathi had studied. They could function through injuries that would paralyze others. But what interested the Kovathi most was something they found strange and disturbing. Humans bonded with each other in ways the Kovathi didn't understand. Even captured, even tortured, the humans shared food, comforted each other, and protected the weak. To the Kovathi, this made no sense. It was inefficient. It was illogical. One guard called it a weakness. The other guard said it might be a strength. Hana filed this information away carefully. In his cell, Day was working on his own plan. He couldn't speak to the others directly through the clear walls, but he could use hand signals. He had been a soldier before becoming a ship captain, and he knew basic military signals. He started simple. A closed fist meant attention. An open hand meant wait. Two fingers meant second guard rotation. Slowly, the others caught on. Yuna was quick to understand. Being an engineer used to reading technical diagrams. She started adding her own signals. A wave meant she had counted the guards. Tapping fingers meant the number of doors between them and the ship's exit. Within a week, they had a basic communication system working. One evening, something unexpected happened. A young Kovathi guard was walking past the cells when he stumbled and fell. His weapon clattered to the floor, and one of his arms bent at a wrong angle. He made a sharp hissing sound of pain. The other guards rushed over, but before they could reach him, Hana was at her cell wall, calling out, "His arm is broken. You need to set it before it swells." The guards stopped and stared at her. One raised his weapon. "No, wait," Hana said, holding up her hands. "I'm a doctor. I can help him. Please, let me help." The injured guard looked up at her with those yellow eyes. He seemed confused. After a moment, one of the senior guards said something in Kovathi. Hana's cell door opened. The guards kept their weapons on her as she approached the young Kovathi. He was barely more than a juvenile, she realized. Maybe the equivalent of a human teenager. "This will hurt," she said gently, "but I need to straighten the bone." She took his arm carefully. The young guard hissed in pain but didn't pull away. Hana felt along the break, then in one quick motion set the bone back in place. The guard yelped, but the arm was straight again. "There," Hana said. "You need to keep it still for a few days. Use a splint." She stepped back. The guards immediately grabbed her and shoved her back into her cell. But as they locked the door, the young guard said something in Kovathi. Hana caught the words. He was saying thank you. After the guards left, the human prisoners were silent. Then they started a slow clap. Others joined in. Hana had just done something impossible. She had shown kindness to her captors. That night, Vexter came to Hana's cell alone. He stood outside, studying her for a long time. "Why did you help him?" he finally asked. "The young guard? Why?" Hana looked up at him. "Because he was hurt, and I could help. That's what doctors do. Even when the injured is your enemy?" "Especially then," Hana said. Healing isn't about sides. It's about reducing suffering. Vexthor's head tilted. That bird-like movement again. Your species is strange. We study you and find contradictions. You are weak individually, yet you resist torture better than stronger species. You are small and slow, yet you fight with great ferocity. You are logical enough to build ships that cross stars, yet you act on emotion constantly. Maybe those aren't contradictions, Hana said. Maybe that's what makes us human. Perhaps, Vexthor said. He turned to leave, then stopped. The tests will continue. We must understand your species before we decide what to do with you. Some of my commanders want to destroy you. Others want to enslave you. I have not decided which option serves the Empire better. There's a third option, Hana said quietly. What is that? Let us go. Vexthor made that clicking sound that might have been laughter. That is not an option. He walked away, but his words stayed with all the prisoners. They were being studied like animals to determine their fate. Extinction or slavery. Those were the only choices the Korvathi were considering. They made a decision that night. He stood up in his cell and looked at his crew. One by one, they stood with him. He made a series of hand signals. Be ready. We fight soon. They all nodded across the corridor. Yuna was thinking hard. She had been studying the cell doors during her timeout for testing. She had seen the control panels, the energy flow, the locking mechanisms. She knew electronics. She knew engineering, and she had a plan forming in her mind. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might work. She caught Day's eye and made a signal. 3 days. Get ready. In her cell with Jin still sleeping beside her, Hana thought about the young guards she had helped. She thought about Vexthor's confusion over human nature. The Korvathi were studying humans to understand them, to find weaknesses, but maybe they were looking at the wrong things. Maybe human weakness was actually their strength. She smiled slightly in the dim light. The Korvathi thought they had captured animals. They had no idea what humans were capable of when cornered. They had no idea about human stubbornness, creativity, and refusal to accept defeat. They were about to learn. The guards doubled as Vexthor ordered, but they followed the same patterns. That was their mistake. The Korvathi were disciplined and organized, but they were too rigid. They did things the same way every time because it was efficient. Humans, Yuna thought, were messy and unpredictable. And that would save them. She had been working on her plan for 9 days. Every time they took her out for testing, she memorized the corridors. Every meal, she saved a small piece of the metal tray. Every moment alone, she studied the energy field that powered the cell doors. The Korvathi technology was advanced, but it followed logical patterns. Energy flowed from a central generator through conduits in the walls. The cell doors were controlled by a main panel at the end of each corridor, and the guards carried small devices that could override any lock in case of emergency. Yuna had taken apart the pieces of metal tray and carefully shaped them using the rough wall of her cell. It took days of slow, quiet work. Her fingers bled from the effort, but she kept going. Now she had what she needed, a small device that could create an electromagnetic pulse. It was crude and would only work once. The once might be enough. She caught Day's attention and made the signal. Tonight. Day understood. He began signaling to the others, starting with those closest to him. The message spread through hand signals and mouthed words. Tonight, be ready to fight. Use anything as a weapon. The humans prepared quietly. Old Kira tore strips from her clothes to use as bandages. Hyam loosened a panel in his cell wall to use as a shield. Sue practiced quick movements, preparing to dodge and strike in her cell. Hana held Jin close. I need you to be very brave tonight, she whispered. When things start happening, I need you to stay low and follow me exactly. Can you do that? Jin nodded. He was scared, but he trusted her. The dinner meal came at the usual time. The guards opened the cell doors one by one, sliding trays of food inside. They never entered the cells themselves, always maintaining distance. When the guard reached Yuna's cell, she was ready. As he slid the tray through the opening, she activated her device. The electromagnetic pulse burst out in a sphere of invisible energy. Every electronic device within 30 feet shut down instantly. Cell doors unlocked. Lights went out. Guard weapons died. For 3 seconds, there was total silence and darkness. Then Day shouted, "Now!" The humans exploded from their cells like a dam breaking. They moved as one unit, following the plan they had communicated through signals. The closest prisoners tackled the guards before they could recover. Others grabbed the disabled weapons. The Kovathi were stronger individually, but they were surprised and disorganized. The humans fought with desperate fury, using metal trays as shields, torn cloth as ropes, and their own bodies as weapons. Yuna ran to the control panel and began working on it manually. Her device had only affected one corridor, but if she could access the main system, she could unlock everything. Day, she shouted. "I need 2 minutes." "You got it." Day grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. It was too large for his hands, but he made it work. He and a group of colonists formed a defensive line around Yuna, holding back the Kovathi reinforcements that were arriving. The fighting was brutal. Humans fell, injured or worse. But they kept coming, kept fighting. For every human that went down, 2 more stepped up. Hannah grabbed Jin's hand and ran through the chaos. Her medical training meant nothing in a fight, but it meant everything for getting people to safety. She dodged between struggling bodies, heading for a side corridor she had memorized from watching the guard patrols. "This way," she called out. Other non-combatants followed her, the elderly and injured and young. Alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. More Kovathi were coming. "Yuna!" Day shouted. "Now would be good." "Got it." Yuna's hands flew over the control panel, rewiring circuits and rerouting power. She had studied this for days, but doing it under pressure was different. Sweat poured down her face. Then, with a sound like thunder, every cell door in the entire detention wing opened at once. 300 more human prisoners poured out into the corridors. The Kovathi were completely overwhelmed, but Yuna wasn't done. She had accessed the ship's main computer. She could see the layout of everything, including where the New Dawn was docked. "The ship," she called to Day. "Our ship is 3 levels down, docking bay 7. Day repeated the information loudly. "Everyone, fall back to the New Dawn. 3 levels down, bay 7. Move." The humans began an organized retreat. The fighters held the line while the others ran. They moved in stages, like a military withdrawal, each group covering the next. Vexter appeared at the far end of the corridor with a full squad of elite guards. He saw the chaos and his eyes widened. "Stop them," he commanded, but the humans were already moving. They had surprise and desperation on their side. They fought through the corridors, leaving disabled guards behind them. Jin ran beside Hana, his small legs pumping hard to keep up. They reached a ladder shaft that led down. Hana pushed him ahead of her, and they climbed down as fast as they could. Above them, Day's group was holding the corridor. They had captured enough weapons now to put up a real fight. The Kovathi had superior armor and training, but the humans had something else. They had nothing left to lose. "Fall back," Day ordered. "Everyone down the shaft. Go, go, go!" One by one, the fighters retreated down the ladder. Day was the last one, providing covering fire as he descended. A Kovathi weapon blast caught him in the shoulder, spinning him around, but he held on and kept going. They reached the docking bay level. Ahead, they could see their ship. The New Dawn sat in its berth, looking small and battered compared to the massive Kovathi vessel, but it was home. "Get everyone aboard," they commanded. "Una, can you get it started?" "Already on it." Una was sprinting for the ship's airlock. The humans rushed aboard in a desperate flood. Hannah and Jin helped the injured up the ramp. Old Kira was limping badly, but refused help. Young Sue carried an unconscious colonist over her shoulders. Kovathi guards appeared at the bay entrance, weapons raised. Energy blasts cut through the air. 2 humans fell. Then 3 more. "We're not going to make it," someone shouted. "Yes, we are." Day returned fire, his captured weapon blazing. "Keep moving." Una reached the bridge and threw herself into the pilot's seat. The controls lit up under her hands. The New Dawn had been damaged in the initial attack, but the engines still worked. "Everybody get strapped in or hold on to something," she announced over the ship's intercom. "This is going to be rough." The last human scrambled aboard. Day was backing up the ramp, still firing. A Kovathi blast caught him in the leg and he went down hard. "Day!" Hannah screamed, but Tay and Hyan were already there. They grabbed Day under his arms and dragged him up the ramp. The airlock door began closing. Through the narrowing gap, Day saw Vexter enter the docking bay. The commander's eyes met his dot for a moment. They just looked at each other. Then Vexter made a sharp gesture to his guards. They stopped firing. The airlock sealed shut. "Go!" Day shouted into his communicator. "Una, get us out of here." The New Dawn's engines roared to life. The ship lurched forward, tearing free from the docking clamps. Energy shields flared as Kovathi weapons fired at them, but Una pushed the engines to maximum. The ship shot out of the bay and into open space. Inside, humans were thrown around like rag dolls. Jin hit a wall hard, but Hannah caught him. People grabbed onto rails and straps and each other. "We're clear," Una announced. "We made it. We're free." A cheer went up through the ship. Humans hugged each other, crying and laughing at the same time. But Day wasn't cheering. He was looking at the sensors, his face grim. Behind them, 3 Kovathi warships were beginning pursuit. They had escaped the prison, but the chase was just beginning. The New Dawn shook as another blast hit the shields. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. In the medical bay, Hana worked frantically to treat the wounded. Day sat on a bench, gritting his teeth as she cleaned the burns on his shoulder and leg. "We can't outrun them," Una's voice came over the intercom. "Their ships are too fast. Shields are down to 40%. Day tried to stand, but his leg wouldn't hold him. "How long until they catch us?" "Maybe an hour," Una replied. "Maybe less." Around the ship, the freed prisoners worked together. Some helped in medical. Others tried to repair damaged systems. The children were gathered in the safest section of the ship, telling each other stories to stay calm. Jin sat with the other kids, but his eyes kept going to the door. He wanted to help. He wanted to be brave like Captain Day. On the bridge, Una stared at the sensors. 3 massive Kovathi warships were closing in. The New Dawn was damaged and slow. There was no escape. Then something appeared on the long-range scanners. "What is that?" She whispered. "It was big. Much bigger than the Kovathi ships. And it was moving fast, coming from a different direction." "Una?" Day's voice came through. "What's happening?" "I don't know. There's something else out here. Something huge." The object came closer, and the sensors finally resolved it into a clear image. Una's blood ran cold. It wasn't a ship. It was a fleet. Hundreds of ships, all identical, all moving in perfect formation. They were dark and angular, built from some kind of black metal that seemed to absorb light. "Oh no," Una breathed. Behind the New Dawn, The Corvati ships had also detected the new arrivals. They stopped their pursuit and turned to face the unknown fleet. Vexter's voice suddenly came through on an open channel. "Human ship, this is Commander Vexter. We are detecting a fleet of unknown origin. Do you recognize these vessels?" Una hesitated, then opened the channel. "No, we've never seen anything like them." There was a pause. Then Vexter said, "Our sensors indicate they are machine intelligences. No biological life signs. This matches records of a species we call the Velkoth. They are extremely dangerous." As if to prove his point, the Black Fleet opened fire. Beams of pure white energy lanced out, hitting one of the Corvathi warships. The shields held for perhaps 2 seconds, then collapsed. The ship broke apart in a ball of fire. "They're firing on us." Vexter's voice was strained. "Human ship, recommend you retreat to maximum distance immediately." But Una saw something else on her sensors. The Black Fleet wasn't just targeting the Corvathi. Some of their ships were moving toward the New Dawn as well. "They're coming for us too," she said into the communicator. "They're attacking everything." Another Corvathi ship exploded. The third one was taking heavy fire, its shields failing rapidly. Vexter's ship sent out a message on all frequencies. It wasn't in Corvathi or human language. It was pure mathematics, a universal code. Una's computer translated it automatically. The Corvathi were calling for help. Day pulled himself onto the bridge, leaning on Hannah for support. He saw the tactical display and understood immediately. "Those machines," he said. "They'll destroy both of us." "The enemy of my enemy," Hannah said quietly. Day looked at her, then at the display. 2 Corvathi ships were already gone. The third was dying. The New Dawn wouldn't last long either. He made a decision. "Una, open the channel to Vexter's ship. Are you sure?" "Do it." The channel opened. "Commander Vexter, this is Captain Day. Your shields are stronger than ours. If we coordinate our fire, we might slow them down long enough to escape." There was a long silence. Then Vexter replied, "You would help us? After we imprisoned you? Tortured you?" "Yes," Day said simply. "Because those machines don't care about our differences. They'll kill both our species. And I don't want to die today." Another pause. Day could almost hear Vexter thinking, weighing options, considering trust. "Agreed," Vexter finally said. "Send me your shield frequencies. We will synchronize our defenses." "Una, do it," Day ordered. The next few minutes were chaos. The New Dawn and the remaining Corvathi warship positioned themselves back to back, creating a defensive sphere. The Corvathi shields extended to cover the smaller human ship. In return, the New Dawn provided tactical data and firing solutions. Una worked her controls like a musical instrument, coordinating with the Corvathi systems. The 2 species had been enemies moments ago. Now they fought together. The Black Fleet pressed in. Energy beams struck the shields constantly. But the combined defense held better than either ship could manage alone. "Target their lead vessels," Vexter commanded. "Concentrate fire." Both ships fired together. The Corvathi weapons were powerful but direct. The human weapons were weaker but more adaptive. Combined, they found weaknesses in the machine ship's armor. One black ship exploded. Then another, but there were so many more. Hundreds of them, all closing in. "Shields at 20%, Una reported in the medical bay. Hannah was strapping down patients in case of worse impacts. Jin stood beside her, helping to pass bandages and tools. The 8-year-old boy was calm now, focused on his task. "We're not going to make it, are we?" Old Kira asked from her bed. "I don't know," Hannah admitted. "But we're fighting." "That's something." On the bridge, they watched the tactical display. The machine fleet was too large. For every ship they destroyed, 3 more took its place. "Vexter," he said, "we need to retreat." Both of us agreed. "But where?" "They are blocking all escape routes." Eunice suddenly spoke up. "There, that asteroid field. If we can reach it, we can hide among the rocks. The machines might lose our sensor signatures." "It is a risk," Vexter said. "Everything is a risk right now," they replied. "Truth. Very well. On my mark, both ships will make best speed for the asteroid field." "Mark!" The two ships broke formation and accelerated hard. The machine fleet pursued, but the asteroids were close. Energy beams cut through space around them, missing by meters. The New Dawn plunged into the asteroid field with the Kovati ship right behind. Una piloted between the spinning rocks with desperate skill, using them as shields. Behind them, several machine ships crashed into asteroids, unable to maneuver as well. "Finding a cave," Una muttered. "There, that big asteroid. It has a hollow interior." She guided the New Dawn into a massive cavity inside one of the larger asteroids. The Kovati ship followed. Both ships powered down to minimal systems, hiding like prey animals from a predator. Outside, the machine fleet searched. Sensors swept across the asteroids. But the rocks interfered with the signals, and the powered-down ships were nearly invisible. Hours passed in silence. The humans barely breathed. On the Kovati ship, Vexter waited with the same patience. Finally, the machine fleet moved away, searching elsewhere. "They are gone," Vexter reported Dot in the hollow asteroid. With both ships damaged and hiding, the two enemies finally had time to talk. They opened a video channel. Vexter's face appeared on screen, those yellow eyes studying him. "We saved each other," they said. "Yes," Vexter agreed. "You could have fled while my ships were destroyed. Instead you helped. Why? Because it was the right thing to do. And because I meant what I said before. Those machines would kill both our species." Vexter was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I first captured you, I thought humans were animals. Clever, but inferior. I have learned I was wrong. And I thought you were just conquerors," they replied. "Cruel and without honor. But you kept your word when we made our deal. You fought beside us." "Perhaps," Vexter said slowly. "We both had incomplete understanding." Over the next hours, they talked. Vexter explained that the machine fleet, the Velkoth, had been destroying organic civilizations for thousands of years. The Kovathi Empire had fought them before and barely survived. They explained that humans were seeking new worlds because Earth was running out of space. They had no army, no empire, just people looking for a better future. "If the Velkoth find Earth," Vexter said, "your species will be exterminated. You need protection. You need allies. And you need creativity," they replied. "Your tactics are powerful but rigid. We saw that. Humans think differently. We adapt." Vexter's head did that tilting motion. "You propose an alliance?" "I propose we don't kill each other," they said. "And maybe, just maybe, we help each other survive." In the medical bay, Hana was listening to the conversation on speakers. Jin sat beside her, holding her hand. "Are we friends with them now?" he asked. "Maybe," Hana said. "Or maybe we're just not enemies anymore. Sometimes that's enough." Vexter made his decision. "I will contact the Empire. I will tell them humans are not animals, but potential allies. I cannot promise they will listen. Many Kravathi believe in dominance above all. And I'll tell humanity about you," they said. "Some will want revenge for what you did to us. But I'll tell them you also saved us. I'll tell them the truth." They made plans. The New Dawn needed repairs that only Kovati technology could provide. Vexter's ship needed the human crew's creativity to upgrade their systems against the VEL single quotes Koth. Working together. Using both species' strengths, they could reach safety. Days later, both ships emerged from hiding. They traveled together toward Corvati space, but as equals now, not captors and prisoners. On the observation deck of the New Dawn, Jin stood with other children, looking out at the stars. Beside them, young Corvati from Vexter's ship stood too, learning about each other. They came for day on the morning of the 8th day. 4 guards surrounded his cell and opened the door. Day stood slowly, keeping his hands visible. He had learned that sudden movements made the guards nervous and trigger-happy. They took him to a different room this time. It was completely black inside, with a single chair in the center. They strapped him down and left him in total darkness. For hours, nothing happened. No sound, no light, no sensation except the straps cutting into his wrists and ankles. They tried, counting seconds to keep track of time, but he eventually lost count. It might have been 6 hours. It might have been 12. Then lights flooded the room, so bright they hurt. They squeezed his eyes shut, but the light penetrated his eyelids. His head began to pound. A voice spoke. It was Vexter, but they couldn't see him through the blinding light. "Tell me about Earth," the commander said. "No," they replied. His voice was rough from lack of water. The lights went out. Total darkness again. Then a sound started, high-pitched and piercing. It felt like needles in Day's ears. He gritted his teeth and tried to endure. This went on for days. Light and dark, sound and silence. Heat and cold. They would give him water but no food. Then food but no water. They would let him sleep for an hour, then wake him with electric shocks. Through it all, Vexter asked the same question in different ways. "Where is Earth? How many humans are there? What are your weapons? What are your weaknesses?" Every time, Day gave the same answer. No. Sometimes he said nothing at all. Sometimes he just smiled, which seemed to anger Vexter more than anything else. On what Day thought might be the 5th day of interrogation, Vexter changed tactics. They brought in a screen and showed him images. His crew being tested. Hana looking exhausted. Jin crying in his sleep. Yuna being held down while they attached wires to her head. "We are learning about your species with or without your cooperation," Vexter said. "Your silence only makes them suffer longer." They watched the screen. His hands curled into fists. But he said nothing. "You are remarkably stubborn," Vexter said. There was something like respect in his voice. "We have broken warriors from a dozen different species. Most talk within 2 days. You have lasted 8. I can last longer," they said. "Yes," Vexter agreed. "I believe you can. Which is why I must change my approach." They took Day back to his cell. He collapsed on the floor, shaking. His body was covered in burns and bruises. His mind felt scattered and broken, but he had not talked. He had not given them Earth. Through the clear walls, his crew watched him return. They saw his condition and their faces hardened. Day saw Yuna mouth words at him. 2 more days. Whatever she was planning, it needed 2 more days. Day nodded slightly and closed his eyes. The next morning, Vexter gathered all the human prisoners in a large room. The guards forced them to stand in lines, like soldiers at attention. 147 humans stood there, some injured, all scared. Vexter walked along the lines, looking at each person. Jin held Hannah's hand tightly, trying to be brave like Day had told him. "I have studied you," Vexter announced. His voice echoed in the large room. "I have tested you, questioned you, analyzed you, and I have reached a conclusion." He stopped at the front of the group. "You are inferior in every measurable way. You are smaller and weaker than Corvati. Your technology is primitive. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are basic. By all logic, you should submit to superior force." He paused. "Yet, you do not. Your captain has endured 8 days of interrogation without breaking. Your doctor helps her captors. Your crew maintains discipline despite hopeless circumstances. This defies logic." Vexter gestured to his guards. They brought Jin forward, pulling him away from Hana. The boy struggled, but the guard held him firm. "So I will try one final time," Vexter said. "Captain Day, step forward." Day limped out of the line. His legs barely held him, but he stood straight. "I will give you a choice," Vexter said. "Tell me where Earth is, or I will execute this child. Not threaten, not pretend. I will kill him right here, right now." The room went silent. Every human held their breath. Day looked at Jin. The boy was crying, but trying not to show it. Day thought about his promise to keep Jin safe. He thought about Earth, about billions of humans who would be in danger if the Korvathi found them. He thought about the weight of all those lives against one small boy. It was an impossible choice. Then something happened that no one expected. An old woman stepped forward from the line. Her name was Kira, and she was 70 years old, a retired teacher who had joined the colony mission to see the stars. "Take me instead," she said clearly. "Kill me, not the child." A young man stepped forward next. "No, take me. I volunteer." Then another person stepped out, and another, and another. Within seconds, every single human prisoner had stepped forward. 147 people, all volunteering to die instead of Jin. The Korvathi guards looked at each other, confused. This had never happened before. Vexter stared at the humans. His yellow eyes were wide. "You will all die?" he asked. "All of you, for one small child who is not even related to most of you?" "Yes," they said simply. "That's what humans do." An older man named Hyan spoke up. "We protect our young, all of them, not just our own children, every child." A woman named Sue added, "If you're going to kill any of us, you'll have to kill all of us, because none of us will watch a child die without trying to stop it." Vexter turned to his second-in-command, a scarred Korvathi warrior. They spoke in their language, clicking and hissing urgently. Hannah, standing in the crowd, caught pieces of the conversation. The second-in-command was saying this was a tactical weakness. The humans would die for each other, making them easy to control through hostages. But Vexter was saying something different. He was saying that any species willing to die together would also fight together. That this was not weakness, but strength. That perhaps the Korvathi had made a mistake. Finally, Vexter turned back to the humans. He released Jin, who ran back to Hana. "You have shown me something I did not expect," Vexter said slowly. "You have shown me that my understanding of strength was incomplete. Physical power is not everything. Unity has its own force." He walked along the line of humans again, looking at each face. "I will not kill the child today," he said. "I will not kill any of you today, but I must consult with the Empire. Your fate is not mine alone to decide." He gestured to the guards. "Return them to their cells. Double the guards. I want complete surveillance." As the humans were led away, Vexter stood alone in the empty room. For the first time in his long military career, he felt uncertain. These humans had challenged everything he thought he knew about conquest and control. In her cell, Yuna caught Day's eye. She held up one finger. One more day until her plan was ready. Day nodded. They had bought time, but barely. Whatever was coming next, they had to be ready.